Hey moms,
Hey, daughter.
welcome to the Juggle Israel
A mom and daughter show.
about parenting
And mental health.
for
Moms and teens.
moms and teens. So, welcome. We are launching season 2, and we took a pause, a very just necessary pause, I think, because the juggle is real, and we had a lot of things going on. And I do believe when we stopped recording, there was starting to be a gap in our closeness, right? And so when we took the pivot on the last episode, and it was about generational wealth and how we can build through the lens of how our relationship to money can really help support us in understanding our personalities and our relationship to money. And when I say this, it's really understanding our sense of self-worth, self-esteem, and how we can build generational wealth through that, because money is just a part of our day-to-day, it's a part of our culture. And when we did that last episode, I opened up a brokerage account, custodial account for Sabrina, and was going to jumpstart her into learning about emotions and money. And I really wanted to zoom out because what I've noticed again is that our relationship was taking a gap just because of things that were happening. But I also wanted to continue learning about money. I wanted to zoom out, but really learn about the elements of our personality and how that does impact our relationship to money. And I hope that this is going to make sense. I promise you, just stick with me. Because Serena's in a relationship now. And it's very different, Serena. And why I think this is super important is because when you look at partnerships, when you look at relationships, committed relationships with like marriages and stuff, what do you think causes a lot of conflict?
Money.
Money. Money. Money, money, money.
And also just like not having the same values in life.
Totally. Not having the same values in life. And so we are starting season 2 because I really feel like we needed a fresh start. And I selfishly am holding you accountable to doing these shows because I know it's really hard in our schedule. But what I was saying last time is building generational wealth is that I was hoping to support you with a deeper awareness of you, your personality, and by learning about not just about money, but just about what makes you you. And you, as you said, your values, it helps you to just remember who you are, right? Even in a relationship. And then we can even go, really make it practical, right? Because like when you're on a date, who picks up the bill?
He does?
But do you expect that to be all the time?
No, I offer every month.
Yeah, right? And I think that's really cool, that he does, but also there's a level of you're not attached to that expectation. And I'm not going to speak for you, right? Because that's something, as I was saying, as we talked about in prior episodes about the differences about female and males and our history of money, right? So Sabrina's grandmother stayed with us last week, and we had this beautiful chat at brunch last week about just the nature of her and Papa's relationship. And my husband's father was an entrepreneur, and he had his own business, a sporting goods consulting business. Grammy worked for him, right? And she also raised 5 children,
Yeah.
right? And she never got a paycheck. Isn't that interesting? She never got a paycheck. But that was almost expected. It didn't, she said in retrospect now, because times have moved and we've talked about that, is that like she would never have, she wouldn't, I don't want to use the word put up with that, but it would be a different conversation that she would have now in that situation. But the expectations were just different, right? And it was different for me, right? Because my mom worked and my dad worked, but also my dad still controlled the money. And Grammy was like, oh, that would be worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you can see already that you are coming from a family with 2 different belief systems, raised with 2 different belief systems, right? And so what do you think about this?
I think it's really interesting to see the way
What?
that they worked and that how they controlled their money.
They control their money?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're working now,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And then workful.
Again, you love working. We've talked about that. Sabrina loves making money and you love spending money. And I'm the same way. Like, I'm not trying to judge you by any means. I'm always in reflection of how to learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're right. This is why my own relationship to money has been an ever evolving story, but it's also truly a way of what I said to you, like a higher consciousness. So that quote that we shared last season was something that I learned from my own life coach, my own mentor, and in my life coaching, and then I used in my book. And it was a quote by Charles Raymond Barker, and it's about this book. It's actually called Money is God in Action. And I truly believe, just like you said, it is about our belief systems. It is about our values, but those can change. But I truly think it's about you learning who you are. And that is too always going to change. And do you remember that word? And I know she's gonna get mad because I'm putting her on the spot. So remember in the very beginning, it was like episode 2, and we talked about what?
Okay, go.
No, no. You continue because your face, you grimaced. What?
You're trying to make me remember from
Oh, it's episode 2. No.
like last year.
Okay, so do you remember like that scenario I said, and I use this many times because it's something that Dr. Dan Siegel shared with me just about the word integration. And the word integration, I know seems abstract, but you have your own belief systems. And this boy that you are in a relationship now has his own belief system. So do you see what I'm saying? So now you're bringing 4 different belief systems, right? Because he has a set of parents, right? And you do. And then just even his own lineage of his grandparents and all that. But integration, as Dr. Dan Siegel says, is the basis for basically well-being, right? Because what that means is that you get to really understand and stay true to you while you also honor your partner's own differences. Like, I'm always learning that even as a mom, and now she's driving, you guys. It's so wild. And it's really hard to believe because in my mind, you're just like this kid that I have to raise and as a parent that I'm responsible for. And now it's just like you're off on your own. And there's definitely a letting go, but there's still that that grip. What do you think about this? Like this ability to really learn about yourself so that way you can hopefully just strengthen your relationship. And I know it's new, but you know what they say about relationships, right? There's honeymoon phases, and the honeymoon phase starts to lose its spark sometimes. But there's a way to keep that spark going. And I really truly believe it's about learning about yourself, learning about your partner, right? And growing from that. And I thought one of the ways that we can do it, and this goes along with money, is really learning your temperament. So the way that I practice my life coaching, this is why I also selfishly get to do these things, is that I can't tell Sabrina my life coaching tools, practices. Sometimes it needs to be absorbed by you in this setting or in a way, hopefully you get to use this in your own relationships with your friends, right? We talked about that at school. But my life coaching is a blend, yes, of breath work, so it's somatic practices. And I practice positive neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity means we're always changing. Our brains are constantly learning. So generational changes that I'm trying to support you with is that you take my sort of things that I don't like about myself or I'm trying to evolve, and you get to use in a way that you get to learn from and change that in a way that is better for you, serves you. So when I say positive neuroplasticity, our brain cells, our neurons are always constantly firing, okay? But remember what I said, our thinking is typically from the past because our bodies remember things that cause us suffering, right? Because you remember middle school and how you felt. You still remember that. And it still comes up in situations why sometimes you don't like to go in line by yourself to order something. You're always wanting to bring another person because there's something that makes you feel self-conscious, okay? You think you were born into this world self-conscious? Do you think you learned that? Yes, right? So positive neuroplasticity is a way to reframe thinking, okay? And a way to do that, because that too seems super abstract, is through the elements, right? And really understanding, because the elements are everywhere: fire, air, earth, and water, and they all have qualities. Do you know who Hippocrates is?
Nope.
Clearly not. Hippocrates, the father of medicine.
I've heard
Okay.
it.
Greek physician.
Mhm.
So, before we had all this technology, before we had medicine and all that, wise philosophers and physicians, mathematicians would say to come back to a sense of well being is through a rebalancing of the element, right? And so, what I was going to do is we're going to go through each element, we're going to break it down into different episodes so that you can really understand each element and what speaks to you and what doesn't speak to you, but also each element in a way that here are more positive ways of using this element and more not so positive ways. You could say negative ways of using this element because we all have it,
Mhm.
and then it causes the more rebalancing. And you can use this too in your relationships, right? Because you can realize sometimes maybe I need to be more assertive in that bill, paying that bill, right? Because I too make money,
Mhm.
and I'm just giving you an example,
Mm.
all right? So that is going to be season 2, and I would love for everybody to rate, review, subscribe to the shows. This is gonna help us. Ask questions, let us know if this is helping, and that's what we have for now.
Bye.